What I'm talking about right now is already something that very much exists on Facebook. The problem is when the top of the company is openly stating his desires to accelerate the spread of this misinformation, what you're going to get is just what you're going to get is an algorithmic boost on some of the most nonsensical, some of the most insane things you ever heard.
All right, we're going to turn now to the changes coming to Meta. The owner of Facebook and Instagram, founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg, announced yesterday the social media company is getting rid of Instagram. Instead, it will rely on users to correct inaccurate and false posts. Kelly O'Grady looks at what the change means for you and what could be driving it.
It's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. The fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg announced a slew of changes. The company plans to eliminate restrictions on hot-button issues like immigration and refocus its automated moderation on illegal content. The biggest change...
I don't understand, what kind of moderation was already happening on Facebook, considering everything I know about how Facebook operates, what it looks like. It was a primary source of radicalization for many of your family members over the age of 50. So outside of severe censorship of issues that pertain to Israel, when were they actually super aggressively moderating right-wing commentary? They only went aggressively after those who, said things that were rather unkind about the apartheid state. That's it. So I don't know how. Maybe you said Hunter Biden. I guess they're still talking about Hunter Biden. Yeah. The most top of mind issue. Hunter Biden.
Change. An end to the booking program. So what does this look like? Whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or Threads, you'll see a similar community notes label as you do on X. For example, this Elon Musk post, users added this context. But critics warn removing fact checkers could breed misinformation. The International Fact-Checking Network, one of the third parties used by Meta, tells CBS it's unfortunate that this decision comes in the wake of extreme political pressure. But some are cheering the move, including President-elect Trump.
Honestly, I think they've come a long way. Meta, Facebook.
I think he's directly responding to the threats that you have made to him in the past with these officials.
Yeah, probably.
CEO Mark Zuckerberg not only met with the president-elect last month, he installed a Republican lobbyist as Meta's chief policy officer.
I think this is really Zuckerberg reading the room.
Wedbush Securities global head of tech research, Dan Ives, says this could be a good business move. What does Meta have to gain with this change?
Well, this can increase advertising. This could be a positive for Meta, positive for Instagram in terms of engagement, interaction, and then ultimately is a positive for advertising. And when you look at the biggest threat here was regulation, the Trump administration. This is a little sort of waving of the white flag with Trump coming in.
Mm-hmm. And in this new Trump era, add UFC president and CEO Dana White to Meta's makeover. Zuckerberg has announced White, who is one of President-elect Trump's biggest surrogates, will be on its board of directors. And it's part of a broader shift we're seeing in the tech business community. Amazon is licensing a documentary on Melania Trump and others, big tech titans. They're donating to the president-elect's inauguration fund.
This is the business decision.
That's right.
More, nothing less.
It definitely
is. Nothing more, nothing less.
That's what gets lost when it comes to these.
What do you mean? All matter of business is political. These are oligarchs. They're all bending to Donald Trump and normalizing it. And no, the reality of the matter is the fact-checking operation wasn't beneficial for advertisers. I guess you could probably sell it to the advertisers that your platform didn't look like Twitter, for example. The issue, however, is that when Facebook makes this move openly, due to the interesting insular nature and the complete consolidated nature of all industries, but especially social media, other companies will follow suit. And basically what's going to end up happening is it will normalize supercharged right-wing misinformation. If I had a conspiratorial mindset around this sort of thing, I would say that these companies are not necessarily interested in free speech at all. Well, I guess that's not a conspiracy. We know that to be true. But instead, they want one of the few areas where you have access to correct information, especially when paired up with decent mainstream journalistic outlets, to be gutted, to be destroyed. They don't want people like myself, basically, to exist on these platforms. They want these platforms to be controlled by people who look at wildfires and say, well, it's orbs. Because a guy like myself, if I reach, or other people like me, if we reach a certain level of prominence, then obviously that could become an issue down the line. We are now officially in the age where correct information is not beneficial to those in positions of power. It's infinitely better if you constantly tell the broader audience that these issues are caused by random things. Look no further than the way that our systems are designed. Look away from the way that our systems are designed. It's actually aliens, or sometimes illegal aliens. That's it. Yeah, I said this as well, but the vibes recently just feel like everyone has accepted Trump. The media doesn't want to challenge him. Social media is going to be all owned by suck-ups. The Democrats aren't putting up a fight like they did in 2017. It just feels like society's fully accepted Trumpism. Yeah, it's true. There is no value for the truth. There is no interest for the truth. And I think the real damaging impact of this will be that instead of advertisers fleeing from places like Twitter, if all of the social media platforms resemble Twitter and are recreated in Trump's image and the like, then advertisers will inevitably go back to Twitter and will continue funding platforms like Facebook. It'll normalize this kind of uninterrupted, unrestricted flow of right-wing mania. That is what I am ultimately fearful of. I think that's what these guys want. It's much easier to keep the population servile if they are all constantly worried, afraid of their own shadows and worried about whatever they think is the appropriate target to get mad at. So that is the America that we are living in for the next 4 years. Truly terrifying prospect. Not good, I must say. Not good at all. What is this? Related? Image by Grok? Okay, stop.
All right, buckle up. We got a Fox News alert moments ago. Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, announcing they are changing their policies to focus on free speech. CEO Mark Zuckerberg saying this.
We're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes, similar to X, starting in the US.
Wow, this is a big deal. Changes include ending its third-party fact-checking program and lifting restrictions on topics such as immigration and gender identity.
Well, is there anything more important to talk about? Also, until now, Meta used automated systems to scan for violations, but found they resulted in too much censorship. So, from now on, they'll focus on tackling illegal and severe violations like terrorism, fraud, to name a few. And joining us right now to name one, a Fox & Friends exclusive, Meta's Chief Global Affairs Officer, Joel Kaplan, joins us live here on the couch. Joel, welcome.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Steve. Great to be here on the couch on Fox & Friends.
It's great to have you here. Okay, so you are announcing these big changes as of 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
If you're making big changes, does that mean you were doing something wrong before?
Look, this is a great opportunity for us to reset the balance in favor of free expression. As Mark says in that video, what we're doing today is we're getting back to our roots in free expression. There's a number of changes we're making, but if I could, and just highlight three.
Yep.
First is, as you heard, we're eliminating the third-party fact-checking system. Well-intentioned at the outset, but there's just been too much political bias in what they choose to fact-check and how, so we're just scrapping it entirely.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I wonder why there was too much political bias in fact-checking, dude. I wonder why. Also, that didn't stop these people from consistently stamping on the so-called principled free speech stance that they're now exhibiting when it comes down to anything that is like remotely pro-Palestinian sentiment being expressed on these platforms. So,
You mean you?
The fact checkers.
You set up yours.
Well, so the idea was they're independent fact checkers, but they've just been too biased. And so what we're going to do instead is adopt a system like X has of community notes. So we're just going to rely on our own community of users to provide people more information about what they're seeing. And we think that's going to work great.
Give us an example. If the headline is Donald Trump won the presidency, then anyone in the community can write notes underneath it?
Yeah, great question. So somebody can write a note, and then the way it works is different people on the platform can sort of vote on that note. And if you get people who usually disagree, who all say, yeah, that sounds right, then that note gets put on the post and people see it. X has been doing it for a while. We think it's working really well, and we're going to adopt that system.
So, and what are the other ones? I know you want to go through.
Yeah, thank you. So the second one is about the rules that govern content on our platform. They've just become too restrictive over time about what people can say, including about those kind of sensitive topics that you mentioned that people want to discuss and debate: immigration, trans issues, gender. We want to make it so that, bottom line, if you can say it on TV, you can say it on the floor of Congress, you certainly ought to be able to say it on Facebook and Instagram without fear of censorship. So we're changing those rules. And then the last thing, if I could, we're also going to change how we enforce the rules. And we're going to make it so that there's way less over-enforcement and way fewer mistakes that actually make up the vast majority of censorship that people experience on our platforms. So big changes, all in service of getting us back to our values of free expression.
So, Joe, I guess the big question is where are the changes coming from? Because, I mean, it's hard not to notice there's been a change in Mark Zuckerberg. You've seen him as, respectfully, the nerdy kid, change over to the jiu-jitsu. He's put on some lean muscle. His viewpoints have changed. His posting content, when he does speak, he's taking a meeting with Trump, taking a different stance on certain things. Are these changes coming from him or from what the public is saying?
There's no question that the things that happen at Meta are coming from Mark. But there's also no question that there has been a change over the last 4 years. We saw a lot of societal and political pressure all in the direction of more content moderation, more censorship. And we've got a real opportunity now. We've got a new administration and a new president coming in who are big defenders of free expression. And that makes a difference. One of the things we've experienced is that when you have a U.S. president and administration that's pushing for censorship, it just makes it open season for other governments around the world that don't even have the protections of the First Amendment to really put pressure on U.S. companies. We're going to work with President Trump to push back on that kind of thing around the world.
So, Joel, why now?
Oh, my God.
I know you said it's a change, but did you feel...
Oh, my God. They're going to actively undermine pre-existing hate speech legislation by American mandate to ensure that fascist commentary, overt fascist commentary, because fascist commentary still very much exists in these countries, but out and about overt ideological fascist commentary is going to thrive. Oh my God. Oh, brother. Who still uses Facebook? Billions of people around the planet still very much use Facebook. Normies use Instagram and Facebook. It's over. The failure of neoliberalism is also leading to the only aspect of liberalism that was actually better overall than the Republican reactionary nonsense, which is even aesthetically trying to protect marginalized identities. Because that was the only thing that you could point to with liberalism, it ended up being the only thing that they can undermine further. Supercharged, dude. It's not just either, by the way. It's just like straightforward. It's just straightforward. It doesn't even have to be like ideologically fascist. And it's going to be so much misinformation. Like so much unrestricted, unfiltered misinformation. Because that already very much exists on Facebook. What I'm talking about right now is already something that very much exists on Facebook. The problem is when the top of the company is openly stating his desires to accelerate the spread of this misinformation, what you're going to get is just what you're going to get is an algorithmic boost on some of the most nonsensical, some of the most insane things you ever heard. Facebook is already a graveyard of AI, some of the craziest AI accounts dedicated specifically to showing you how stupid the AI slop is on that platform. We are cooked. It's also the beast killing itself, honestly. This is like the monster that is destroying itself in an effort to engage in endless profit seeking. Ironically enough, because I think this will ruin American society. What remains of like American normalcy will go away.
Feel restricted over the last 4 years, and this is the first time you have it's in your business interest to express this quest for freedom?
Well, there's no question that there's an opportunity here with a new president taking office, as I said, who really believes in free expression. And that's just going to give us the space to get back to those values that Mark has talked about for a long. Mark gave a big speech 6 years ago at Georgetown about free expression, about these values. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of political and societal pressure here and around the world that have pushed away from those values. We've got a real opportunity to reset, get back to them, and really provide a space for free expression.
How was the Biden administration putting pressure on you specifically? Were they calling where they didn't like a post? What did they say, take it down?
Yeah, so Mark talked about this in a letter he sent to the House Judiciary Committee a few months ago. That sort of outlined the way in which we got a lot of pressure around COVID in particular to take down more content, even things like humor and satire about the pandemic and about vaccines. So, we did experience that kind of pressure. The decisions we made ultimately were our own. But there's a real opportunity here with President Trump coming into office with his commitment to free expression for us to get back to those values and really provide space for people to have the kind of discourse and debate they want to have.
Would you do what X did, and that is unleash independent journalists like Matt Taibbi and Bari Weiss and Michael Schellenberg onto forensically go through what you guys are actually repressing, shielding, shadow banning over the last few years? Wouldn't that be part of this cleansing process?
Matt Taibbi.
So we've had an opportunity to do a lot of that with the House Judiciary Committee and Chairman Jordan over the last few months and years, and he put out a really thorough report on the experience that we and other companies have had. Honestly, we're pretty focused on the future and the opportunity we have right now with the changes we're making today to really open up the space for debate and expression.
Is the idea to get out of politics totally and focus on just the enterprise of the free market, people debating things? Or is it for Mark Zuckerberg to become like an Elon Musk and be influential as well, work with the next administration? Or a little bit of both? I don't know.
Well, Mark's always going to be Mark Zuckerberg, but I think there is a real opportunity to work with the new administration, both on free expression, but also on American leadership in technology and innovation. This is something we've seen President Trump is really focused on, making sure that we maintain U.S. competitiveness and leadership on technology, things like AI. Those are obviously super important to our company and our industry, and we'll look forward to working with the new administration to advance those goals.
Right. And, Joel, when you talk about content moderation, I think a lot of people watching right now are going, well, it sounds better if they're not taking instructions from the federal government, the Joe Biden administration, saying, hey, this is wrong, take that down. So people like the idea that they're going to have a say, where you can add the community notes going forward. But ultimately, is this one of the things you're doing as a company to make sure that Meta and the other social media companies aren't regulated by Washington? Because that's the last thing you guys want.
Yeah, I think when it comes to expression, especially in the United States, we got a long tradition of the First Amendment, and we think that the right thing is for individual users to have the ability to decide themselves what to say. Look, there's bad stuff that people do online, like they do in the real world, and we want to make sure we don't have that. So we're still going to be enforcing against terrorism and drug sales and child sexual exploitation, things everybody agrees have no business being on our platforms.
What about bullying? All the young little girls. I remember Mark. Remember he was.
Yeah, when they say terrorism, they're talking about Israel, by the way. Like, that's why they hire terrorism aspect of it. They're not talking about like ISIS and stuff, although that is a part of it. They're certainly not talking about white nationalist terrorism. They're talking about, you say anything about Palestine, you're clapped, you're gone. Facebook is so bad with their censorious practices in terms of censorship over anything remotely pro-Palestinian, that the Human Rights Watch has written reports on it. Luigi Mangione is another one too. Expect things like that to also be surprised. I like this lady being like, oh, what about bullying? Not the undesirables, of course, because what you're talking about is literally supercharged bullying of trans people and gay people, undocumented migrants and whatnot. But what about bullying, cis teenagers?
On the Hill, and he had to He kind enough to turn around and apologize to the families, but all those families have lost their kids from bullying. I have a 9-year-old, so I'm starting to get concerned because eventually when she's in high school or even after, she'll be faced with these situations. So what do you say to those families?
Yeah, well, I'm a parent of 2 teenagers.
Gosh, so you're in it.
Yeah, I'm in it. So, these are issues that I take really seriously, and that a lot of my colleagues who are also parents at Meta and those who aren't parents take really seriously. We got to make sure teens are protected online. We launched a few months ago a product called Teen Accounts that really puts parents in the driver's seat and makes it so that they can see what their kids can see and do online, who can contact them. We put kids in sort of built-in default settings, the most protective settings we have. And then if you're under 16, you can't change those settings on Instagram without your parents' permission. We think that's a really good innovation and something we're hopeful. It's an area where Congress can act.
How do we do that setting? How do the parents find that setting on the phone before they give it to their child?
Yeah, well, so we'll send notifications basically to the parents to let them know that this opportunity exists. And the kid can't sign up for Facebook or for Instagram without being put into a teen account, and then their parent gets a notice and says, hey, your kid's trying to sign up, and if you want to change any of the settings, you can do it here.
So, Joel, what you got to do is reestablish trust. I mean, people remember the Zuckerbucks into those key areas in 2020 that were
Dude, you can't be a serious journalist. This is one of the most popular news programs in the entire nation, and it has one of the hosts saying Zuckerbucks. Perhaps further evidence of our demise, of our societal regression.
Deciding which state, what candidate was going to win what state. And one of the reasons you're trying to do that is, number one, making this announcement here. The other thing is changing your board to let people know, maybe by the people that you're hiring, that you asked to join, that their agenda doesn't match maybe the 2020 agenda. What have you done?
Well, we made a big announcement yesterday, put 3 new board members on, great board members, including Dana White, the president and CEO of UFC. Guy's a legend, an incredible businessman, incredible entrepreneur, marketing genius. Super excited to have him. A couple other great board members with real deep business experience that we put on the board. So those are important voices. Mark is
mean right hook. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it on camera. Mean right hook. I mean, he's Mr. Equal Opportunity Hands, okay? You need a guy like that. You need a guy like that. Listen, you need a guy like that in power to demonstrate said power. I know his wife has seen it. Oh, yeah. What's that? Equal Opportunity Hands, baby. Equal rights, equal lefts. There he is. That's the guy. That's the guy you're like, oh, that's a legend right there. That's what he said. He said the words, that's a legend right there about this man. Notorious wife beater. America's totally fucked. Yeah. Yes, it is. It is. Absolutely. It's cooked. It's been cooked. It's just going to cook even further. America was already cooked. It's just getting cooked further. That's it. And in more visible ways. And in more damaging ways as well. Sometimes literally we're getting cooked.